How do you chase your dreams for 6 months when you are terrified? To betray yourself and to live out of fear is one of the biggest mistakes we can make, and I'm guilty of that a lot of the time. But this year I promised myself, I don't want to live out of fear. January 2024. I was still living in Wellington at the time, and I was gearing up for my first solo trip to Japan. I just finished my first commission for my client in California. I really fell in love with the process of tailoring. I think my first calling as a machinist, as a pattern maker, I love the intricacies of that. The unfortunate reality is if you're doing X amount of work and you are only getting this amount of take-home income, where you have to reinvest that and you have to make sure that it is sustainable for you. It's not a sustainable way to scale a business, and that's the biggest factor. So when I'm in Japan and I'm wandering around, the one thing that I notice is everybody's carrying a bag. Every age, every form of education, every background of work. People are all carrying bags either for adornment or for accessorization. February. I get back to Wellington and 5 days later I'm moving to Auckland. I'm up here to study my bachelor's and it was a beautiful time. But there was something missing, you know what I mean? I came here to learn how to naturally dye, and then they come to me and they're like, oh, by the way, that's all of your self-study. I'm paying you how much a year? I had to miss out on other commissions and other opportunities in regards to social media or even flying out to fashion weeks to Paris. Missing out on all of this, and I couldn't do that because one, my uni schedule, but also I wasn't making barely any money. But it was this continuous process of, what am I doing here? You can only do so much with theory. You actually have to have that practicality in practice. And so I started to wonder to myself, why not a bag as a first product? April. This is when I had a follower reach out and the message is pretty much, hey, I'd love to buy this YSL jacket off you. I eventually sell it, and I was actually at an interview. We met up to get lunch later. He had pretty much approached me on the basis of, hey, I want to be able to start my own fashion label. You obviously have that educational experience in pattern making. I want to be able to connect you with investors or at least financially support you in some regard. If you know me and if you know the crippling imposter syndrome that I deal with, I was very hesitant. I had taken a step back and I realized that, wow, I'm doing the exact thing that I promised myself I would not do at the start of this year, and that was living out of fear. I'm talking from the background of someone who had a diploma in this and who also had that further experience of other work internships. I knew what I wanted to do, I was just too scared to do it myself. And there's this golden opportunity in front of me to actually start something, to actually do something instead of repeat the next 3 years because I'm scared. It eventually became more of my creative direction because he approached me on the fact that, hey, I want to be able to provide that financial assistance for you or at least connect you with investors. I finally decided to drop out, which was a very lovely time. The idea of the bag where it's something of a utilitarian item and it's carrying your entire life, you're having to flee. I love that, and I fell in love with that so deeply and so heavily. I looked at a lot of army veterans and the bags that they used to carry, specifically from the Korean and Vietnamese war. Crossbody is something that I personally love. It's something that I always wear. Why not that be the silhouette? So from April till June, I'm pattern making on and off. I'm still having to work, obviously, and it's quite hard to delegate yourself and motivate yourself knowing that this could be in the back burner. When I had the mentality switch of, it's this or it's nothing, because this social media thing is not gonna last. The one piece of advice that was given to me as someone who asked, why is anybody gonna care about what I make? Why is anybody not going to invest in designers that they already know? And I got told, there are 11 million other people like you. Why should anybody look at you? And I carried that same line of thinking. I don't want to separate myself, and I don't want to create something so different where it's outlandish for the sake of being outlandish. As soon as I remove that aspect of, I need to create something that's going to separate me and it's going to define me. Fashion is inherently derivative. It's a talking point with references upon references upon references. It's self-referential in itself. I looked at my closet, which is a black abyss, if you will, and I looked about the clothes that I wear, and I don't want to try and complicate something so simple because there is beauty in simplicity. It's sometimes the most simple garments that are kind of the hardest to create and construct and pattern make. After 9 different twirls and 9 different samples, it happened. I firstly called my partner and I also called my mom and I was like, tapos na, it's done. That final product that you're wearing, there's so much human labor involved in that, and there's so much work put into that, and we don't see the worker. We don't see the people who are actually actively making our clothes. I think this common idea of outsourcing, and a designer now is someone who has the creative vision but doesn't really have the skill. We see so many people on social media now saying, I'm a fashion designer, I'm a creative director. Fortunately, the investor that I'd found, they wanted quite a sizable portion of the business. They asked for a 56.72% stake, which is a majority stake, and Anybody who does not outright catch that, please know that is a bad business deal. McQueen, Helmut Lang, all of these designers who are phenomenal and people I look up to, they all sold majority stakes and eventually they were pushed away from the autonomy of their own design. What did I want going into this? I wanted to have my own voice, I wanted to have my own opinions, and I wanted to have my own perspective. If I said yes to that deal, I knew that I'd be giving everything up, everything that I've been working hard towards, because I'd be no longer seen for what my voice is and what my perspective is, but also who I am as a designer. I also have to hold accountability for myself because I was still hesitant and I really was not that confident of saying no outright. Like, okay, they're gonna give us complete financial control and they're gonna support me in a financial sense. I didn't start my own label for the longest time, one, because I needed to develop my own style. A financial burden, and as soon as that's removed, like, what do I bet on myself? You always have to bet on yourself. And I pretty much say, hey, post-production, give me 3 months to pay you back on all of this. I was producing 50 units. And with that, I was able to make sure that they get paid. I also get to fund the next run of this. I had started looking for fabrics and the colors that I promised to myself were black, red, and gray. I wanted to use 100% organic fibers and non-synthetic ones. Denim has historically always been something that was associated with working class people just because of the rigidness and the toughness of it. It's something that can continuously be repaired. That repair and that continuous life of the wear is something that's really beautiful, and that's something that I saw when I was in Japan. Clothing that has been mended over the years and destroyed, and it carries its own story. It almost has its own soul. Clothing is the one thing where it never admits any flaws. It doesn't lie to you. You can't take away the stains if it's there. It tells the story of that. The one thing I wanted from these bags is you need to make sure that you wear these until you can't wear it anymore, and I'll take care of the rest. Probably for the next month and a half, I'm just waiting for fabric, I'm getting my sampling done, and then I finally find this Chinese wholesaler which actually sells Japanese denim. I knew if I wanted to get the right commercialization for this and the right eyes on this, I needed to start building up the social media profile. It influenced so much of my design language, one, the cultural background, and the Catholicism being brought over by colonization to my old-fashioned lecturer Giles. They had a very good saying that everyone is either born a Catholic, rejects Catholicism, or comes back to it. My last collection being titled I'm Sorry My Dear Evangelist, it plays on the uniforms of that. And going back to Japan, obviously that was the last place I was able to see my grandmother. It was a moment of not villainizing the church, and it's not religion which is evil, nor is it the organization of that, but it's us when we try and justify our actions as being that of God. But when I was thinking about this entire storyline, why is it appropriate to actually be in church and not asceticize that? I thought about how many couples have to elope, you know what I mean? How many people have to run away. And I thought, and I imagined this young couple eloping to a church in the woods. Their families despise each other, and the only way that they can meet is if they meet at the church tonight. Pair, and the only person who can officiate them is one of their friends. So all that the soon-to-be bride asks is, please, meet me at the altar. And like I said, they could fit their entire lives inside these bags. I had it. Now I just had to find a church, which was the most difficult part. But pretty much for 2 months, I was trying to figure out where am I going to shoot this, how many churches are actually going to say yes, and a lot of the times they were charging like maybe $300 or $400 an hour, which, sorry, my savings dried up on this. I'd mentioned being made redundant, so I was doing a lot of job searching at this time. Another interview didn't go well, and I was really, really upset this day. I just got my 30th rejection letter from a church, and they said, hey, sorry, we can't help you out with this. I find this absolutely beautiful Presbyterian church. I shoot them a message and they get back within minutes. They said, oh, minimum hire is, by the way, like 3 hours. And I was like, oh my God, how expensive is this gonna be? 300. 300 for 3 hours? Yep. Take my money. Last of the last minute, and we are shooting October 17th. son of an immigrant, I worry that my mother made the mistake of leaving everything that she had. Community, familiarity, I constantly think what her dreams and future would have developed into if she hadn't had me. I tackle my design philosophy through the same lens of utility, but behind that it's fear. Will my mother's sacrifice be in vain? My fashion label was named Marisol. It belonged to my ex-business partner and we've now parted ways. I wish them nothing but success, and when they asked, what will you name it next? I thought of this fear. My last name Reyes will fade over generations, and it's not my mother's maiden name but my father's. It'll transform over generations until it's completely forgotten, but I would not be where I am right now, designed the way I do. I've sold out my first drop within 37 minutes if it was not for my family. Sukab is my mother's maiden name, and in Tagalog it literally translates to find shelter or to huddle together. I just wanted to know, maraming salamat sa sakripisyo mo. So goodbye my dear Marisol, and I'm really excited to present Sukab. Salamat ma.